Greetings, Terrarians, Khaios here. Today I'm going to be building a themed town for the ocean pylon, so I'm here on the beach about ready to get building. With summer rolling around, it's quite warm on this sandy shore, but the sun isn't the only thing that's hot right now. That's right, I'm still selling channel merch. Shirts, mugs, and stickers of various designs, all made by the amazing Cheesy Panini. If you're interested in picking yours up, there are links in both the description and the pinned comment. Just remember that they're only on sale until the 1st of July. So, the build that I want to make for the ocean pylon is a small area inspired by the lost city of Atlantis. Some sort of ancient looking sunken ruins basically. And I want to include a coral reef because I really enjoy building them. If you don't know what a pylon is, this is a teleportation item that you place within a town. When at least 2 NPCs are living near a pylon, you can use it to teleport to another valid pylon. These are biome specific, so they'll only function when they're located in the proper biome. For example, the cavern pylon will only work when it's placed within the cavern. The ocean pylon is purchased from a happy town NPC with a shop while they are in the ocean biome. NPCs can be made happy either by living near NPCs that they like or living within biomes that they like. Avoid housing NPCs near others that they hate or in biomes that they hate. As for the ocean biome, the pirate, angler, and stylist all love the area. Since the angler does not have a shop, you can easily purchase the ocean pylon by moving in either the pirate or the stylist into this biome. Now for the build. It will be fairly sizable, much larger than the current ocean floor, so I need to expand it out. By using some chests with items in them, then placing a pool of lava in front of those chests, I can quickly drain the entire ocean, while I use the drill containment unit and the Celebration Mark II to carve out more area with me. I really have no idea what's going on here with this hardened sand turning into obsidian. That's kind of bizarre. Alright, so I finished clearing out the bottom of the ocean using the Celebration Mark II with some mini nukes. Now obviously I can't place anything off screen over here. There is space over there for blocks, and if I zoom out here, you could see the edge of the world over here originally had the ocean down here, which is why there's shadow, and I lifted this up all the way over to here, which is why there's light. Now I might be able to go into T-Edit and place something over there when I'm done with everything and get rid of that light, but for now I'm just going to ignore it. And I decided to make a flat building area out of hardened sand because you can't block swap with normal sand over here. So I'm going to be basically making the ocean floor using hardened sand and sandstone, and then I'll block swap areas of that with normal sand. And down here you can see that it's completely hollow. I just did this to save time. It's much easier to place a ton of walls using the smart cursor than it is to place a ton of blocks. So I created my building canvas up above, and then I just got rid of the lava down here and placed a bunch of walls until everything was pitch black beneath, and you can't really tell that there's a hollow gap under there. So up next, I'm going to start working on the ocean floor itself, and I'm going to start off by doing a layer of hardened sand. When designing an ocean floor like this, I find that it helps to keep the entire build in mind. Know where you're going to put the buildings, know where you're going to put the decorations. The floor of the ocean would never be perfectly flat in real life, and I feel like it's a good thing to bring that feeling into Terraria. I start off with a shallow taper from the beach into the ocean, followed by a sudden steep drop. This begins to smoothly taper off towards the bottom of the ocean floor where I will be doing my build. I would actually prefer to make the ocean taper off much slower before the drop and have it go much deeper as well, but there are two problems with that. One, ocean space is very limited in Terraria. Unfortunately, you cannot make an artificial ocean. I do wish that you could have something like 2,000 spaces of water plus 1,000 blocks of sand, equal an ocean. This wouldn't really impact the desert oasis since they aren't that large, and it would allow you to potentially make an entire ocean world. The other problem with this is how dark water gets the deeper you go, so this ocean floor will be relatively shallow with limited horizontal space to work with those two limitations. And now the ocean floor is mapped out. I marked where I want the top of the waterline to be over here because essentially I don't want the building to be any higher than this. I don't want it to be popping out of the water, but I also don't want it so deep that it gets incredibly dark and we can't see what's going on. And this raised mound will be where the building is going to sit. I want it to have an air pocket in it so that there can be two valid NPC houses and the NPCs won't, well, drown. So in order to do that, I wanted to have this raised bit where they come in underwater and it raises up and there's probably around here dry air. And then the pylon will actually be sitting right here in the center on top of the sand, and everything will be built around that. In addition to that, I plan on building a coral reef over here against the side of this drop off from the beach, and all the way over here to the left. I don't know if I plan on building another coral reef, possibly. I think it might look good, or kelp farm or something, but I also decided to bring this all the way down to where the original ocean line was, and just kind of have a drop off like this. Like, it gets much deeper the further out you go. And obviously the water line, the top of it would be all the way up here. This way I don't need to hop into T-Edit just to make one tiny little change. So up next, I am going to get started on the coral reef. I start my coral reefs off by giving a stone area to build upon them, just so it looks like something is actually holding the coral reef up. Now don't mind that some of these are floating. I will be using background walls to kind of support these later on in the build, but from this point, I start swapping out some coral stone blocks without any paint in segments of the sandstone, and thankfully we have block swap now. It makes this so much easier than it used to be. But as you can see here, the texture is actually not too dissimilar to the way that sandstone looks in the parts that aren't colored, so it makes it look as if this coral is growing straight off of this stone. Unfortunately, I don't know any way of actually blending these together. If I were to use, oh well, that's a bad spot. If I were to use sand right here, you can see that they don't blend. None of the blocks that I'm aware of actually blend with coral stone, and that's slightly unfortunate because it would look pretty good if these could somehow blend together with the sandstone, but I do like this technique a lot anyways. Let me just replace that. Actually, I could just put some more coral in here. So as I continue going through here, if I end up with segments like this, where they no longer look connected, if you just hammer it into a slope, it'll grab on to the block above or below it. I probably won't want to go up because I won't be able to place water in that space, so it'd be better to hammer the top one down like that. And as I go through here, I'm just going to quickly add a bunch of coral stone to all of this reef. When you're creating coral reef foundations like this, and it comes time to place the background walls for depth and support, there are a ton of different things that you can do. Normally, I would blend worn stone and craggy stone walls together with white paint. Sometimes I'll use living leaf wall, or I might go for a splash of color with some of the new crimson walls. Your imagination is the only limitation here. Don't be afraid to experiment around. Coral reefs are a safe place to play around with new wall combinations. They look colorful and chaotic in nature, so any mistakes that you make won't actually look like mistakes and will only add to the build. This time, I wanted to experiment around with walls that I hadn't tried before, so I ended up blending gray painted hardened sand wall, crimson crest wall, and white painted craggy stone wall. And at this point, I'm pretty happy with how everything's looking. I ended up combining some crimson crest wall and some white painted craggy stone wall to add more texture to it, and the craggy stone wall in particular just kind of varies the edges when I use them there, so it's not so square because it's a very not square looking wall. As you can see as I place it there, it's got a lot of jagged shapes to it, and it's really good for roughing up the edges of any sort of stone background thing. So up next, from this point, I'm going to be grabbing some shell piles, which are a new item that's been added to 1.4. Now these are unique in a way that they can block swap with sand, and that's because these are also affected by gravity, as you can see right there. So I can take these shell piles and just blend them in with some of the sand along the beach, and that adds some more texture to the sand, just like piles of reef and shells that have been washed up. And then I can add a little bit around this location as well. At this point in the reef, I start the decoration. Now for that, I have various different types of shells, including the new ones, which are the tulip shell, the lightning whelk shell, and the Junonia shell. I also have normal seashells, which will vary each time I place them. I also have starfish, which also vary each time I place them. Coral, same thing, every time I place them it'll be different. And I have two types of strange plants, which I will be painting a variety of different colors. So I'm just going to go through and place things semi at random, whatever feels like it looks good. After I've placed these, what I can do is I can go through and add the water in and then add lime kelp. I might not add the water right away because I think I want to get started on the building before I do that. But once the water is in, I will add some lime kelp. I could even add some orange bloodroot hanging from the tops of these. And the decorations for the reef are complete, minus the kelp. Well, not that statue, that's not a part of it. I just thought it would look nice since this is going to be an underwater ruin. Now, I've added this wall of bubble because I decided to go ahead and show you what this reef will look like once it's underwater. So let me just get that added in real quick. Okay, so now you're going to hear one of the very few times that I actually complain about Terraria because I absolutely love this game. However, look how dark it is underwater. You could pretty much not see this coral reef at all, which is quite a shame because it looked pretty good when it was not underwater. Now, I have an icy fountain here because this helps slightly. It lightens things up ever so slightly, but it's still incredibly dark in here, even with it. So what we have to do is light things up artificially. However, let me just say, if any of you are mod creators, and once Team Mod Loader has updated to 1.4, if you really want to help me out, because I would love to build underwater in Terraria more often and actually have it seen without artificial lighting, make me a mod where the water doesn't make it this dark. That would be amazing. At any rate, there are several different ways that we could light this up. There's some new coral underwater torches. They're okay. Here, I'll pull one out so you can see what the lighting looks like. I'm not a huge fan of it myself, but you could decide if you want to use these in your coral reef. They're really green like that. It's not terrible, but I think there are better ways to go about it. Something a little bit more subtle as well. You could also do something like grab jellyfish, and I wish you could just actually throw the jellyfish in here and have them stick around, but they won't. But you can grab the jellyfish jars and say put one in various locations, like I might do one right there and maybe get rid of that bit of coral and put one right in here. And you could even do something like fragment blocks. So if I just grab some paint and we'll make some of these deep pink, and let's use the stardust fragments, but you could experiment around and see what other fragments you like. You could just add little segments of glowing coral around anywhere really, and you could vary the color on these. So I might do some yellow ones or some sky blue ones or anything like that. Now the only thing left to do once you have those light sources in place and you could actually see the coral reef is to add the kelp. And we're just going to find any location that has a flat open block like right there. They're not going to be really easy to see. Oops, I didn't mean to actually get rid of all of those decorations, but that's okay, we can deal with that. So we're just going to place a few of these down. Now, there is a better looking kelp in Terraria, and well, I guess I could just show you. It's a form of grass, I would say, kind of like an inverse vine. And there should be some underground here in this cave. Once you get underground and there's sand plus water, these kelp, yeah, right here, they start to grow, and I absolutely love these things. They move when you walk through them, which is a really nice ambient feature. They add a little bit more depth to the water by adding shading, if you could see any light under here, and I just think they're fantastic. However, they're stuck underground, like all the way underground. They don't start showing up until the background layer of the underground starts showing up. That's when these start growing. You don't get any on the surface, which is a shame because these could be a fantastic addition to the ocean. So what I'm going to try and do is hop over into T-Edit, and I haven't tried this out to see if it works. Hopefully it does. And I'm going to try and place some of them up here, and hopefully they don't immediately break. Ignore the wooden box. You didn't see this. It's just so I can move NPCs in so that I could do things like the cavern biome from the first episode, okay? So I just needed to move NPCs in. Don't judge me for making a wooden box. Regardless, we are here in the world. I had just placed everything in T-Edit. I haven't taken a look yet, and I want to take a look with you guys and see how it goes. So let's get a conch shell. Okay, so let's see if this actually worked. Yes. Oh yes, it works. Fantastic. Now this just looks so much better on the surface. I went ahead and hid some fountains underneath the water. Obviously, I need to put some right around here, because if we go up too high, it reverts back to the normal ocean. They're just sitting under here in the area that I left empty. So I need to change that a little bit. But the reef is looking fantastic. I love the kelp, and I'm so happy that with T-Edit I can place this above on the surface. Before I get to the building, it occurs to me that once I unpause time, these might continue to grow since they've already started growing. I know that these aren't currently underground, but I think that only prevents their spawning, and they might continue to grow. I don't want them all to be the exact same height. So what I'm going to do really quickly is just grab my ice rod, grab some echo blocks, and I'm going to place an actuated echo block over each and every one of these so that they can't grow beyond this height. And now it's finally time to start the house itself. Since this is meant to look like it's been underwater for many years, I wanted to give a stone structure that would look like it could hold up that shape all that time. But I also wanted it to look like it had been worn down, so I'm going with gray painted green brick and palladium column for the sidewalls. The green brick is far more rough in texture than other kinds of bricks are, which make it a perfect fit for ruins. The roof combines red and blue dynasty shingles. The red shingles are painted gray, and the blue shingles are painted teal. There's a specific reason that I put teal on blue shingles and not red ones, and that's because blue shingles don't take paint as well as red shingles do. They're always slightly more faded in color. So my rule of thumb is this: if I want a newer looking roof, color paints go on red shingles. If I want an older faded roof, color paints go on blue shingles. So this bridge I'm thinking will connect to the second NPC house over here, and I haven't added a whole lot of detail to this area yet. I will be doing that in a little bit. And I will also be creating a cavern wall under here using various types of the stone wall. But first, before I move on to that, I want to work on the interior of this building. Now, I think that I want to have windows in here. I think that I could make it look good with some stained glass without having it look like water should actually be in here. So let me just quickly here add some background walls, and then I'll detail the walls after I've got the window in place to make sure that this could work the way that I want it to. Okay, so what I'm thinking is I might do a tall stained glass window like this, but I don't want it to necessarily look stained glass because I'm not a huge fan of the texture itself, and it doesn't look very, I guess, reinforced. It doesn't look strong enough to hold back the pressure of water. So in order to pull that off, I'm thinking I'll grab some actuators and some gray paint here and some grate block and put this in front. So it looks like it's reinforcing the stained glass. It also looks bluish like the water on the other side of it. It's actuated so that we could walk in front of it. And it doesn't look like water would just be able to pour on in, since it's also a glass window that's just been reinforced with metals. I'm very happy with how the walls and the windows in here are looking. The windows do look glass, like they've been reinforced with these metal bars, but I'm not really happy with them unpainted, and I'm thinking that teal paint might not only match the water a little bit better over there, and also the ceiling. It might make it look like algae's growing on top of it, and yeah, I'm liking that a lot more. Okay, this is why building takes me so long. I don't know if any of you all experience this kind of thing, but once you get an idea, it just kind of takes hold and you just kind of have to go with it, see where it takes you. And ultimately, I think I like that result more, because it does look like light's coming through this algae-grown window and the algae is dyeing it kind of green. Alright, so I'm happy with that. And now the second house is done. I blocked this door off so it can't be opened. There's a piece of palladium column on the right side and the statue on the left, because if this were to open, then water would rush in through here, flooding the house, and that's not what I'm after. It would also lower the water level of the ocean and probably have it offside with this building being in the middle. So instead, I've got this hole through the bottom, which is how you're going to be entering this house should you choose to play the map, which, by the way, the download for this map will not be available until I've completed the series. So far I've done the cavern pylon and I'm doing the ocean one. Once I've done all of the pylons, I will make this world available for download. So up next, what I need to do is work on decorations. For the most part, I'm going to be mimicking stuff that I've done over here in the coral reef, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the final product. And now for the most important part of the build, the hoplite statue. Okay, so everything is pretty much done. I went with green dungeon furniture for the interiors, lots of plants. And you know what, now that I think about it, maybe it's not quite done, because what I'd like to do is just kind of splash some color around on some of these plants that'll be under the water. However, everything for the most part is looking pretty good. I'll just wrap this up quickly off camera, and then the only thing left to do is to fill this up with water and place blocks that'll light it up like we did with the coral reef, and also go into T-Edit and grab some more kelp and place that around as well. Before I wrap this up, I discovered something kind of bizarre that I guess I didn't notice before, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but if you place Echo Block in the water and you actuate it so that water's actually in front of it, it still lets light into the area as if there was no water there at all. So I guess in a way, if I layered this entire build with Echo Block, which I'm far too lazy to do, maybe I'm really considering it. But look, if I get rid of these blocks, you can see that the lighting goes away. So having even actuated Echo Blocks in there is bringing in light. I noticed that the tops of all of these have light pouring through. You know what? I'm gonna try it out. I'll be right back. It is done. Not just the build, but the Echo Block lighting. Was it worth it? No, probably not. But I did it anyway, just to show you guys exactly what I had in mind when I asked for a mod that basically eliminates the light reduction from water. Because look at this. Isn't this just... I mean, it's glorious. You could actually see underwater. If I want things dark, I put walls behind it like this, and it gets a little bit darker. And yeah, I mean, I might have missed some spots over here. It's a little bit dark, but just look at how light this area is. And that's all because of actuated echo blocks, which I'll never do again. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not worth the effort. This took hours to do. Hours. And it was just to show you guys what this could look like if if water didn't reduce light. It just looks fantastic. I would build underwater all the time if it was like this. But just take a look at how much goes into this. All of this. I mean, I missed some spots here and there, but they didn't really make too big of a lighting deal, except for maybe over here in that corner. But all of this is a pain, a massive pain to pull off. And worse yet, you'll never be able to build in this area. These are all blocks. So if you wanted to expand underwater, you'd have to mine all of it out and then place more and reactuate them. And it's just a pain. I'll never do it again. But it was worth doing it this one time just to get a taste of what this would look like. So if anybody out there is a modder or a mod author, I would love something like this when TModLoader updates to 1.4. Seriously, that would make my day. Regardless, the build is done. I hope you enjoyed the ocean pylon. If you did, be sure to leave a like and a comment. It really helps me out. And remember, I still have merch on sale until the beginning of July, so you'll find a link to that in the description as well as the pinned comment. If you're curious about picking up some merch, go ahead and check it out. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll catch you all later. Happy building!